On today's episode, the Will Ferrell comedy Strays has been delayed by like 2 months. Amazon is going to start licensing out its original content. I guess they're going to try to follow Sony's lead a little bit there. Also, Transformers Rise of the Beast now has a runtime, and it's a lot shorter than you might think it is. Zack Snyder seems to suggest that the only reason people didn't like his DC movies is because they were too dumb to understand it. James Gunn's Superman film, can he still do it if the Directors Guild goes on strike? We'll talk about that. Speaking of strike, the Writers Guild of America is going on, but could the WGA sign an agreement with just one of the major studios and make movies with them while the other ones don't? AMC Theaters is tired of selling you M&Ms, so they're going to start making their own brand of candy to sell you at the theaters. Is that good or bad for us? We'll discuss that in a little bit. Beetlejuice 2 now has an official release date, and we know the identity of Jenna Ortega's character. And the next 30 days are the most insane, packed, biggest movie 30-day, 1-month period that we've had in 4 years, and we're going to count down our anticipation list of those. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming and all sorts of good stuff, not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. Joining me here in the studio today, of course, we got Ray Ora back there, Jen Carpenter's back there, Jonathan Voico running the show. Today is Wednesday. That is our delightful Chris Carr's day off, so she's not here on Wednesdays. But most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We break it into 2 parts. In the first part of the show, we talk about predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we take your questions. If you'd like to get a question on the show, simply send it in to our tip link at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And maybe if your question is appropriate to be used on our show, you'll see us read that off on the show. All right, guys. With that all down, let's get things started here with a couple of off the tops. And the first one is this. You know, one of the funniest trailers that came out of nowhere and completely caught me by surprise, Ray got me to watch it, was the new upcoming Will Ferrell dog comedy Strays. This movie looks absolutely phenomenally hilarious. And Will Ferrell came out on stage at CinemaCon with one of the dogs and gave their pitch of the movie, and that was also funny. If you guys haven't seen the trailer yet, I highly recommend looking for the Red Band trailer because it is some of the funniest crap I've seen in a long time. It looks so good. Well, the movie was supposed to come out in under a month, but it just got delayed 2 months for a surprising reason: the writer's strike. Well, wait a minute, John, the movie's done. How could the writer's strike affect it? It's actually kind of interesting. This comes to us from the folks at Deadline, who write the following. With Universal pushing R-rated comedy, Please Don't Destroy from August 18th to Peacock, another R-rated movie, Strays, featuring the voices of Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx, is backfilling that date. Originally, Strays was supposed to open on June 9th, so just like a month from now. But the WGA strike is partly the reason for Strays movie. An original body comedy like this requires all the late-night TV talk show promotion it can get, and Strays was about to start screening to the press and kick off a junket in the near future. So basically, what they're basically saying here is that one of the big marketing strategies for Strays, which is, again, a raunchy R-rated comedy, was going to be a lot of push and a lot of promotion, sending out all the cast members on the late night talk show circuit. But the late night talk show circuit was the first set of shows to be impacted by the writer's strike. They write their shows on a daily basis, and if there's no writers, they can't do a show. So I actually found it really interesting that the main impetus for them having to move this thing, and now they're going to keep their fingers crossed that, you know, come August that this writer's strike will be settled, because if it's not, maybe they'll bump it again. But they're saying it's like, hey, if we can't have this key component of our promotion of the film, then we got to delay the film. And now I think that's fascinating because normally when we think of delays, we think of, you know, production problems or reshoots or other things like that. But the fact that the writer's strike is also having an impact on movies that are already done is actually kind of interesting. Listen, guys, I cannot wait to watch this movie Strays. I think it's going to be one of the best comedies of the year. Joyride is going to be the best comedy of the year, but I think this movie Strays looks absolutely fantastic. Guys, question is for you. What do you think? Are you as bummed out as I am that we're going to have to wait a couple of extra months now to watch Strays? Is it understandable to you? Is it kind of surprising? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. We've been talking a lot about how Sony Studios is unique amongst most of the major studios in the sense that they are the only really studio that doesn't have their own primary streaming service, right? Paramount has Paramount Plus, Universal has Peacock, Warner Brothers has HBO Max, now just called Max. Disney obviously has Disney Plus, and so on and so forth. Well, Sony let us know at CinemaCon, we talked about this before, that they're kind of positioning themselves to be like the arms dealer in this big arms race. They're just going to create content that all these other streaming services have to bid top dollar for to get on their streaming services, right?
Well, with things like Morbius, they're lining up.
Yeah, it's gold, baby. It's absolute gold. Make that Morbius money. So apparently Amazon kind of likes that model and they're going to sort of follow it. Here's what's happening. Like right now, Amazon has their Amazon Prime Video. I don't even know what they call it. I don't know what the actual official name of the video service is. It was just Amazon Video, Amazon Prime, whatever.
Prime Video, I think.
But they have several fantastic original IP shows that they play, just like the other studios do, right? They got like Emmy award-winning shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is fantastic. The Boys, which is incredible. Some great original films and all that kind of stuff. Well, Amazon is positioning themselves right now, according to a new story in IndieWire, to kind of become a hybrid where they are going to create their own streaming content, but they're also going to license that content out to other services to play for money. This comes to us from IndieWire. They write the following. Amazon Studios will soon license its original shows and movies to third-party platforms. The newly formed Amazon MGM Studios Distribution, announced on Monday, will license out Amazon originals and continue to license MGM content worldwide, making Amazon Prime Video the first major streamer to enter syndication in such a big way. Will Netflix follow suit? Probably. So basically, here's what we're talking about. 48 hours ago, it would have been inconceivable, I say, that you could turn on Netflix and watch The Boys. Well, The Boys is an Amazon exclusive. I mean, we ourselves, I used to say, like last year and whatever, that in the world of the streaming wars, exclusive IP will be king, because that's what differentiates your streaming service from somebody else's streaming service, is what IP is exclusive to yours. You want to watch Mandalorian? Okay, great. The only place you can watch it is Disney Plus. You want to watch Watchmen? Well, the only place you can watch Watchmen is on HBO Max, and so on and so forth, right? Well, as the model for the streaming services is starting to get deconstructed, because remember, in the beginning, there was light and there was like the streaming services were emerging out of the primordial ooze and taking shape. And everybody thought, streaming services, that's it. It's all streaming services, completely divorced from the old television model, no commercials, one tier, exclusive content only, right? But what have we seen happening over the past number of months and in this past year? That model of streaming has been slowly falling apart. It started with different tiers. Then they started introducing commercials. Now, granted, certain tiers don't have commercials, but now most of the streaming services have some form where they have commercials, just like they did before on the old television thing. And now they're talking about being able to syndicate all the stuff that they have and have it out there. Now, this could be key because this is just some of the content here on my screen that Amazon is going to be looking to that other streaming services can come and pick up. The Boys, the new Ben Affleck movie Air, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Goliath, Hunters, Borat 2, Coming to America, the Rocky movies, the Bond movies, the Creed movies, one of the most award-laden shows lately the last number of years, The Handmaid's Tale, Vikings, which I love, Fargo, Without Remorse. I mean, this is a lot of type of content that a lot of other studios are going to line up. Now, here's the interesting thing too. Amazon Studios is going to be now unique amongst the major streamers that they're going to take their original content, which will stay on Amazon, but also play other places if they want to license it. But Amazon is also the only one of the major streaming services that you can't just get the streaming service. Like if you want to get HBO Max, you can go get HBO Max. If you want to get Disney Plus, you don't have to first buy a membership to Disneyland in order to get Disney Plus. You can just get Disney Plus. But with Amazon Video, you can't just get Amazon Video. You have to get the full-fledged Amazon Prime service with free delivery and all that kind of nonsense. So Amazon is actually really setting up a lot of things that are making them completely unique. And you know what? The IndieWire article is asking the question, Netflix, which has been exploring a lot of different ways to try to generate revenue, they probably won't be far behind. Now, like the way I think this is going to work out, when The Boys season 4 comes out, right? I don't think it'll be on Amazon Plus and on Peacock and on NBC. I think The Boys season 4 will come out, be exclusively on Amazon Video for a little while, and then after it's been out for a while, then probably CBS can option or something.
Or another streaming service will have the seasons before the new one, just so people watch it, and then they'll be like, "Oh, we need to watch season 4. Yep. Let's get But who would buy stuff that's on Prime? It's like, who would buy stuff that's on Netflix? I think Netflix is different only because they have a lot more original stuff. That's a lot of stuff to sell around. You know what I mean? I don't see how this would work for Netflix, but I can see how it works for Amazon because I have Prime. I've never opened my Prime Video app. Even when you guys say The Boys is really good, there's nothing that pushes me to open it and actually watch it. So maybe it will
Not
help
the Creed
Amazon.
movies?
Oh, well, I watched that one in theater. I don't need to watch those. I think it's more for series, I think. The series that are current and new, like I still don't find myself opening Prime Video to watch anything. Even Invincible, when you were hot on Invincible, I was like, I'll check it out, but I never just got around to doing it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a lazy.
But the important thing is a lot of other people do. Like a lot of people watch The Boys and a lot of people watch Invincible. And in a growing playing field where all these broadcasters, and I'll include streamers and traditional television, all that kind of stuff under one umbrella. Broadcasters are starving for content. And yeah, I think if there's some network and says, hey, we can have Invincible on our channel, we can have whatever.
Does this include Rings of Power? It doesn't, right? Because that's a different
They wouldn't let that go.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd do that one, but I think most of their stuff they will. So
maybe when the Spider-Man stuff starts coming out, I'll start opening it. Like that Silk show that they're working on and all that stuff.
That.
Maybe I'll have my eye on.
The point is, though, is that, again, with all these networks and all these places that are just screaming to have content, that's why Sony is having a lot of success, and maybe this model can work for Amazon. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this move by Amazon? I mean, they're already pretty unique in the sense that they're the only service you can't just get their service. You have to buy a package of stuff. But now they're talking about taking some of their shows, some of the best shows that are out there and their movie properties, and licensing them out so you can get them in different places as well. Do you think this is a good move for them? Do you think other networks will line up to get the content? Do you maybe think other networks won't be interested? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's get into some main topics here, shall we? And the way you can send in a main topic, if you guys come across a big topic, issue, or story that you guys feel we absolutely should be covering here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your question as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. That down? Jonathan, what is our first main topic today?
All right, our first main topic comes from Benimus Prime. Hey, John, love the show. It was just revealed that the runtime for Transformers Rise of the Beast is 1 hour and 57 minutes, making it 3 minutes longer than Bumblebee. I know you've said that longer doesn't equal better, and I know that a common complaint of the Bay Transformers movies was the runtime. But this runtime feels too short for a movie with 3 new Transformers factions and Unicron. What are your thoughts on this? Thanks for all you do.
All right, Benimus Prime, thanks a lot for writing that in. And yes, listen, Transformers movies, the one thing you can always count on is they will have great trailers. The movies may turn out to be sickening garbage, but you can count on the trailers being awesome. And Transformers Rise of the Beasts, which I'm still confused why they didn't just do Bumblebee 2, to be honest with you. But Transformers Rise of the Beasts, I wasn't super interested in it. Then the first trailer came out. I thought it was lights out. And then they played the new trailer at CinemaCon showing Unicron. I'm like, okay, I'm in. I mean, it's probably going to turn out to be a hot mess, just like the other Transformers movies. But you got me. This looks like it could be a lot of fun, so I'm completely on board. Well, we just got the official runtime, which is 1 hour and 57 minutes. Okay. So you asked the first thing I want to address here about that you wrote in was, hey, that might be kind of short, just a hair under 2 hours, considering that we've got, the Maximals and we've got like these other groups. We got to introduce Unicron. I don't know if 2 hours is long enough. I always come back to this, but think about it for a minute. You know how long the original Star Wars movie was? 2 hours. You had to introduce Luke Skywalker. You had to introduce Han Solo. You had to introduce Obi-Wan Kenobi. You had to introduce Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, Princess Leia, Grand Moff Tarkin, Biggs, Wedge, Porkins, Rogue, whatever. And you had to introduce the whole concept of the Empire. You had to introduce the concept of the Rebellion. You had to this is the first time we ever had this entire universe. You had to introduce whatever the Death Star was, all that kind of stuff. When that movie started, we didn't know any of it. And yet, in a 2-hour movie, they easily introduced all those things. You know why? Because George Lucas was a filmmaker and a storyteller at the height of his powers, and he was able to tell that story and introduce us to all these things in a 2-hour story. If you're a good filmmaker, you can do that. If you're a weaker filmmaker, you need more and more and more time. Not that longer movies mean you're a weaker filmmaker, but I mean, if you're a skilled tactician of a storyteller, you can tell a great story. Star Wars did it. Greatest movie of all time, did it in 2 hours. With the world of Transformers, we already know so much about it. We get a lot of the things with the Transformers, and now they're just adding a couple of new pieces. So do I think 2 hours is too short for a Transformers movie? Not at all. I don't think that is. Now, listen, I may watch the movie and then say, man, that movie did feel rushed. I might watch the movie 2 hours and think they could have cut 25 minutes out of this. So we just don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
As long as they concentrate on the robots, like I don't want to see any relationship stuff. Like maybe they cut all the extra stuff out. Like I don't want to see a story with a human falling in love with a human. I just want to see robot stuff. Like the only relationship I want to see is between the kid, the new guy, and his robot. That's it. I don't need all the extra stuff that Michael Bay had in his. Just give me the robots.
But how else are you going to have some girl in overly tight, skinny shorts leaning over a motorcycle into an engine? I mean, what's going on? Okay, so let's do this for a second. Let's actually take a look at the runtime of the Transformers movies, because something pretty interesting kind of comes up. So the first Transformers movie, which I liked, by the way, I really liked the first Transformers movie.
It was good. It was fun.
Yeah, I thought Michael Bay did a great job on the first one. That movie is 2 hours and 24 minutes. Age of Extinction was 2 hours and 45 minutes, which was garbage. Revenge of the Fallen, which was garbage, was 2 hours and 30 minutes. Dark of the Moon, which was garbage, was 2 hours and 34 minutes. The Last Night, which was garbage, was 2 hours and 29 minutes. And Bumblebee, which was great.
Yes.
Bumblebee was great at 1 hour and 54 minutes. I want to point out, what's the best movie on that list? That's a subjective question, but for me, I'll give my answer. Best movie on that list by a good margin is Bumblebee.
Yes.
What's the shortest movie on that list? Bumblebee. By a good margin, it's the shortest movie on that list. Again, that's not to say that 2 hours is the right time for Transformers Rise of the Beast. We won't know if that's the right time for it at 1 hour and 57 minutes until we watch it. But again, I just really do believe that length does not equal quality. The right length for the right movie equals quality. Some movies are perfect at 90 minutes. Some movies are perfect at 3 hours. The length, though, in and of itself doesn't tell you whether a movie's good or bad. So, I mean, I can tell you the length of a movie, that'll be Ray Ora's falling asleep point. That I can tell you. But
this sounds perfect to me.
yeah, 2 hours sounds
2
good
hours
to
is
me.
great.
But
I mean, what? Let's have a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It's that 20. It's that 220 that
It's
pushes
that
it for
yeah,
Ray.
it's 220 where I like zone out for 15 minutes.
But again, if you can do this movie, have it be nice, quick, brisk, good, solid pacing, all killer, no filler, I mean, the 2 hours could be perfect. But again, we won't know until we see it. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apparently, the new Transformers movies, Rise of the Beast, is 1 hour, 57 minutes, right around the same length as Bumblebee, coming in just behind it for the second shortest Transformers movie we've had so far. Right runtime, wrong runtime, maybe you do want to see something longer. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into our next question here, where they're asking about something a little questionable Zack Snyder may have just said. Jonathan, what do we got?
All right. Well, Film Zone writes, worst thing a filmmaker can do is blame the audience if their film fails. Snyder just did that. Looks like Snyder says audiences just didn't understand his DC films. Is this a bad thing for a director to say, blaming the audience? Many did understand them and just didn't like them.
All right, Film Zone, thanks a lot for sending that in. Now, look, I am a DCEU, including the Snyder films, apologist. I will argue to the day I die that Man of Steel, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. That movie gives me so much joy. I will always have a debt of gratitude to Zack Snyder for making that film. I absolutely love it. I liked Batman versus Superman. I liked Justice League, both flavors of it. I liked the theatrical version. I liked the HBO version. I liked Suicide Squad, not the James Gunn. I mean, I love the James Gunn one, but you know, the hot mess of a one. Oh, yeah. I like that. I was entertained by it. I know it was a hot mess. I don't care. It was fun.
I like that movie too.
The only DCU movie I didn't like was Birds of Prey, the Fabulous the Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I didn't like that one. That's the only one I didn't like. So I am an apologist for those movies. But the reality is that a lot of the audience didn't like them. I acknowledge that. Even my beloved Man of Steel, a lot of people didn't like it. Didn't make the box office numbers that they were hoping that it would make. Didn't have the critic reviews or the audience response that they were kind of hoping it would make. And that's fine, whatever. Well, apparently Zack Snyder, director of a couple of those films, you know, the HBO version of Justice League, Batman versus Superman, which I think is underrated, and Man of Steel, which is the most underrated movie. He made some comments that we've heard other directors say before, and it always rubs me the. I remember talking about this back in my movie blog days, that every once in a while a director will come out and say something that kind of says, it's not me, it's you. And that's kind of what Zack Snyder just did now. Listen, this is what he said. This comes to us from the folks at Screen Rant. Wrote the following: Snyder believes most of the negative reviews for Batman versus Superman were a result of audiences not understanding his multi-layered approach to storytelling. I feel like a lot of people went into the movies for going like, oh, it's the superhero romp, right? Let's have fun with it. And we gave them this sort of hardcore, deconstructionist, heavily layered, experiential, modern, mythological superhero movie. Wow. Keep patting yourself on the back there, dude.
Say that 5 times fast.
Movie that really needs to pay attention to. That was not cool for them. They were like, what? No. It's, again, this is Zack Snyder explaining his own movie. Hardcore, deconstructivist, heavily layered, experiential, modern, mythological superhero movie. Basically, what he's kind of saying there is, I was just too deep for everybody. You just didn't get it. Okay. I will say this. In today's modern time, and I say this in defense of Zack Snyder, because this happens a lot. In today's modern time, where filmmakers, actors, producers are constantly having cameras and microphones and cell phones and all this kind of stuff constantly pushed in their faces. I mean, quite often, you got to remember a lot of times when celebrities say stuff, it's not like it's stuff they sat down and planned out and wrote out and drafted. It's just like off the top of their head and they're just talking and winging. And I think just like most of us, I'm sure most of us in a lot of casual conversations when we're saying things off the top of our head, I'm sure at the end of the day, all of us look back on our days and go, oh, I wish I didn't say that.
Yeah, like this whole time I've been here.
This whole time.
Like every day, I go home and that's what I think. Man,
I
should
should
I
have said
even
that.
open my mouth? I have a defense to this, but go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so, and I think what happens quite often is that maybe sometimes a celebrity says something that maybe didn't come out the way it didn't come out the ideal way. And we kind of build our entire construct of what we think of that person based on something that they just kind of unplanned said off the cuff, right? So I think we need to cut Zack Snyder some slack here, okay? Now, that being said, I do agree it doesn't read well because it does kind of come across as saying, I'm not the problem to the audience. You're the problem. And I've always graded a lot when we've heard directors say that. And let's be clear here. Zack Snyder's not the first guy to be guilty of this. I mean, many directors have done this before. I've talked about this a lot, again, in my 20-year career doing this. But it's always unfortunate because, number one, it's a director brushing aside any criticism of their movie. But number two, this is where I think some directors have a disconnect. You're the storyteller if you're the director. And first of all, people understood Man of Steel, and people understood Batman versus Superman, and people understood Justice League. They did. They understood it. They just didn't like it. I did. But just because I did doesn't mean other people don't. And just because other people don't, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them for not liking it. They liked it. They didn't like it for a bunch of different reasons. But here's the main thing. As the director, you are the storyteller. If there is a big segment of your audience that didn't understand, which I don't think is the case here, but if there's a big segment of your audience that didn't understand your message and didn't understand your story, you know whose fault that is? That's yours. You're the storyteller. Part of being a storyteller is being able to craft your story in a way that will impact your audience. And if you're telling a story in such a way that your audience can't interpret what it is you're trying to say, that ain't the audience's fault. That's your fault. And so, number one, I don't think people misunderstood my beloved Man of Steel. I think they just, for whatever reason, they didn't like it for their own reasons. I don't think people didn't understand Batman versus Superman. I think they just didn't appreciate it the way I did for their own reasons. Film is subjective. But I do not think the fault lies with people watching it because Zack Snyder's just too smart for everybody. And to be fair, again, I don't think that's what Zack Snyder was trying to say. So I think he needs to be cut some slack here on this.
I will say, after watching Man of Steel in the theater, the people that I actually went to go watch, I think I mentioned this on Movie Club, they didn't expect that Superman version of Superman. And
I agree.
And that's why they didn't like it as much as I did. You know what I mean? They said, oh, I wanted more of the Clark Kent when he's a goofy Clark Kent.
They wanted the Christopher Reeve Superman, yeah.
Superman doesn't kill or whatever, this and that. So I get what he's saying in a way, but he shouldn't have said it at all.
No, and again, I think this is one of those things where, like all of us, I think this is one of those things where at the end of the day, he probably looked back on his quote and said, I didn't mean it to sound like that. That didn't come out right. I'm sure he probably thinks that too. Because I've met Zack Snyder. I've watched a lot of interviews with him as well. He does not strike me at all as the type of guy. I mean, think what you want about his movies. You can have whatever opinion you want about his movies. He has never struck me as the type of guy who's completely full of himself. Like, I am the Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola combined into one magnificent God movie-making being. That's not Zack Snyder. He doesn't believe that or think that way at all. Yeah. So, again, I think it's just an unfortunate comment that came out the wrong way.
Now, if David Lynch said these words, I'd be like, yeah.
If David Lynch said it, I would believe it.
I think it's just time to move forward. I'm so excited for Rebel Moon. Let's get that ball going.
Rebel Moon is good. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Come on.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, Zack Snyder said some things that, granted, on the surface may make it look like he's saying, if you didn't like my movies, it's because you're the problem. You didn't understand it. Obviously, I disagree with that sentiment, but I don't even think he really meant it that way. But anyway, guys, whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's take a break from the main topics here and go over to our hotline, Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. If you guys have a question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our hotline number anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And this first hotline question we have is asking if, hey, James Gunn's Superman movie is written, but what happens if the directors go on strike? Check it out.
Hi, John and crew. My name is Colin from Texas. I'm calling about the possible future of James Gunn's Superman. We know that the writer's strike is happening, and it shows no sign of slowing down. And we know that the directors and actors are all going to meet with producers later on. What would happen if the directors and actors also go on strike when James Gunn is also a studio head of DC? Do you think he would still direct Superman Legacy despite directors going on strike? Or would that pretty much shut down all of what James Gunn is doing over there at DC? Thanks.
All right, Colin, thanks a lot for calling that in. And yeah, listen, we've been talking a bit about Superman Legacy recently, and why on earth would you not be excited about that movie? I mean, granted, I'm a Henry Cavill guy. I would love to still see Henry Cavill as Superman, but he's not. Okay, we move on. Especially after watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and watching what James Gunn was able to do with that, and now we got Superman Legacy coming out in 2025 that's going to kick off the new era of DC on the big screen. And I'm so excited for it. And I think he's going to be great. Now, we've been talking about it a little bit lately because of the writer's strike. Now, the advantage that Superman Legacy and James Gunn has with it is the fact that the script is already written. James Gunn's script for Superman Legacy is written. And we talked before about if the script hadn't been written before the writer's strike happened, James Gunn, who is a member of the WGA, despite the fact that he's a studio head, he wouldn't be able to write any more stuff for it. So now the question is, with the writer's strike going on, the Screen Actors Guild, the Actors Union, and the Directors Guild, the Directors Union, are now themselves in negotiations with the producers. And there is a fairly good chance that they all might end up on strike too with the Writers Guild. Not saying it will, but there's a good chance they will. Chris Carr, who is a member of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, was telling us the other day that there's a good chance the Screen Actors Guild that the actors are going to go on strike. And if they do, there's a good chance the directors are as well. So let's hypothetically look at this hypothetical situation. What happens then to Superman Legacy? Okay, the script's already done. Don't have to worry about the writer's strike. But James Gunn is also a member of the DGA, the Directors Guild of America. Here's what would happen. He couldn't direct the film. At least they would have to delay the start of production on the movie until, if, again, this is all predicated on the idea of if there was a Directors Guild strike. And if there was, he would have to instantly stop his work as a director. He couldn't be doing any more director work. He could still do his studio executive work, but he couldn't do any director's work. And they couldn't put the movie in front of cameras until the strike was over. Now, I don't think they were supposed to start shooting this movie anytime in the immediate future. Like not in the next, I don't think they were going to start shooting this in the next month or two. Maybe they were, but I don't think they were. Have to look into that. But yeah, if a directors go on strike, they're going to have to delay. Because as a member of that union, James Gunn is bound to the agreements of that union and the bylaws of that union. Now, you could say, well, then he could leave the union. Sure, but then suddenly that creates more problems because now Superman Legacy is a non-union movie and that certain people won't work on that movie if there's a non-union director working on it. Again, we talked, Chris Carr knows more about that stuff than I do because she's a member of SAG, but she talked about that a little bit the other day. So yes, the bad news for Superman Legacy is if there is a Directors Guild strike, they're okay with the Writers Guild strike, but if the Directors Guild strikes, then this movie's going to get delayed.
Now, is he also, I get studio exec, I get writer, director. Is he a producer? Is he in the Producers Guild too?
Yeah.
So he's striking, he'd be striking against himself.
Well, no, but he's not the studio, right? Like the AMPTP is not just representative of all producers, but really more the producers' bodies. So he's kind of clear. But as the head of DC Studios, he's in a conflict of interest situation because he is representative of Warner Brothers, which is a member of that Producers Association. So again, it's a very intricate, complicated, weaved web there. But yeah, bottom line is, if the DGA goes on strike, James Gunn can't direct, at least until the director's strike will be done. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, fortunately for all of us, Superman Legacy isn't a movie that's supposed to be coming out till 2025 anyway. So I think at the end of the day, we're worrying much ado about nothing here, probably, but it could have a bit of an impact. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Before we move on with all of our next topics, including, how does this writer's strike, how's it going to affect with deals that writers make with individual studios, AMC theaters making their own candy, Beetlejuice news, the huge upcoming movies in the next 30 days and all. We're going to talk about all that in just a minute. But before we get to that, we're going to take just a second here and thank a couple of the sponsors of our show here today, the good folks over at Manscaped and Rocket Money. We want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. Summer's coming. Are you ready to unveil your beach bod? Manscaped is here to ensure your body is ready for the wild with their game-changing full body grooming and hygiene products. It is time to get ready for summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea. Guys, I've been using Manscaped products for a while now, and I love starting every day feeling cleaner, fresher, and way more comfortable. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you increase your confidence and level up your full body grooming game with the Performance Package 4.0. The kit comes with the Essential Lawnmower 4.0, waterproof cordless body trimmer, and a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your grooming routine. Inside the Performance Package, you'll also find the Manscaped Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer, because we know how painful chafing can be when you're wearing your bathing suit all day. And no one likes nose hair, so their package also comes with the Weed Whacker 2.0. You also get 2 free gifts, the Shed Travel Bag, a $39 value, and the patented high-performance reduced chafing Manscaped Boxers. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com/Campea and use the code Campea. That's 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com/Campea and use the code Campea. Trim your chesticles with the besticles. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Manscaped and my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile, for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you go and check out and support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So if you go down to the description of this video, you'll find links and promo codes for all of today's sponsors. And thank you again to Manscaped and Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to another hotline question here, shall we? And it's a question to do with the writer's strike and whether the WGA can make a deal with an individual studio. Check it out.
Hey, John, Hank from Buffalo. I had a question about the writer's strike. If, say, Warner Brothers were to come in and say, hey, we agree to your demands, and Universal, on the other hand, were like, hey, no, the WGA strike out against Universal while working for Warner Brothers. Can they do that?
All right. Thanks, Hank, for calling that in. This is a question I've heard a number of people have written in and called in about. Okay, so the Writers Guild is going on, but talking about, say, the James Gunn stuff, like, could they just make a deal with Warner Brothers to make sure that the upcoming DC slate gets made? Could they just make a deal with Disney to make sure Daredevil gets back on track or stuff like that? Okay, so the short answer to that question is they could, but it would cost them dearly if they did. Okay, so here's the situation. We know that we have the Writers Guild, or WGA. We know we have the Directors Guild, the DGA. We have SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. We have IATSE, who represents a lot of the other professions and disciplines in the world of filmmaking. We have all those. But all those are on the one side. And on the other side, you have this Producers Association. That is the AMPTP. The AMPTV. I can't remember what it stands for. The American Motion Picture and Television Producers. I think that's what it stands for. Now, the reason they're able to make deals with individual unions is because the unions have the power of what's called collective bargaining. Now, I'm going to way oversimplify it here. So this is generally the idea, okay? But don't go to town on this. Collective bargaining basically gives a group the power to represent a larger body in matters of negotiating contracts and deals. Okay? So like, let's say Ray wanted a raise, right? He could come to me and talk to me about a raise for him, but that raise for him doesn't affect Jen, it doesn't affect Chris, and it doesn't affect Jonathan. However, if Ray and Jen and Chris and Jonathan wanted to form a union and they gave Ray the power of collective bargaining, that means they have given Ray the power to negotiate on all their behalfs, and they are bound to whatever deals Ray makes.
We get free McDonald's
What
on
kind
Mondays.
of barbecue you want later, John?
Yes. So now they would have to ratify. Ray would have to go back to them with a deal that he reached, and they would have to ratify it and all that kind of stuff. But that's the power of collective bargaining. Instead of having to sit down with every single individual, you can do it as a collective, right? Well, while we all understand that the WGA, SAG, the DGA, they have collective bargaining within their unions, the studios themselves have formed this organization of the AMPTP to be the power of collective bargaining on their behalf. Now, this is the description, the way they write it up. It's like this. The AMPTP is the entertainment industry's official collective bargaining representative. AMPTP member companies include the major motion picture studios, including Paramount Pictures, Sony Pictures, Universal Pictures, Walt Disney Studios, and Warner Brothers. The principal broadcast television networks, including ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. Streaming services like Netflix, Apple TV, and Amazon. Certain cable television networks, and other independent film and television production companies. So, the AMPTP is basically all of these organizations come together and say, we've got this now body that we call the AMPTP, and they will act on all of our behalfs, making collective bargaining agreements with the unions who have their own collective bargaining power. So, what would happen then if, say, Universal, like he's suggesting, were to sneak around the back of McDonald's one night and meet up with the president of the WGA and say, tell you what, yeah. All the other guys, they want to give the writers, I don't know, 400 million more, but I'll tell you what, us at Universal will give you 500 million more. So why don't you end the strike with us and you can keep striking against them, but you can work on Universal things, right? Here's what would happen. It would completely demolish any power that the AMPTP has. If one of those signatory member companies were to break away like that, number one, they would not be able to benefit from any of the agreements the AMPTP does come to. They would immediately eject that studio out of their collective bargaining power. And then here's what would happen. All those other studios, Walt Disney, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Netflix, Apple TV, Amazon, NBC, CBS, they would all sue the shit out of Universal for doing it because they were in this thing together. They were relying on each other to agree and stay and behave by the terms of their collective bargaining. And if Universal goes around and stabs them in the back at that point, the other studios are going to sue the shit out of them. So yeah, maybe Universal could get 1 or 2 new projects done because they reached a secret agreement with the WGA, but it would eventually fall apart. Now, just to be clear, because Jonathan had the Universal logo up there,
Yeah,
to
we're not
be clear,
saying that.
I am making up a scenario. This isn't what's happening. It's a totally made up scenario. Universal has not gone behind the backs of their fellow AMPTP members. So anyway, I hope that answers. So generally speaking, for all intents and purposes, no, that's not something that can happen. The AMPTP and the Writers Guild themselves are going to have to come to an agreement as the collective bargaining powers of the two organizations. So hope that answers that. Guys, what do you think about that whole situation? Can you think of loopholes to that? Does it even matter? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's get back to your submitted main topics here, shall we? And this next one has to do with AMC's going all Willy Wonka and wanting to make candy. What do we got here, Jonathan?
Okay. Well, we got Michael O'Hearn who writes, a while back, we heard AMC was going to start selling its own popcorn in stores. And today, Adam Aron announced he wants to start selling AMC candy at the concession stands in an effort to reduce overhead costs by selling other brands. Do you think this is a good idea? And furthermore, do you think people will latch on to the idea? Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot for calling that in, Michael. Now, look, right up the front, I'm not going to be disingenuous. Everybody knows that I think Adam Aron is the biggest boob of an executive in the film exhibition in the world right now. I mean, he might be a wonderful personal guy. Maybe he and I would get along great if we knew each other personally, but I don't think he does a very good job running that company. That being said, and that's just my opinion. That being said, this is interesting. Now, look, one of the things you got to understand about movie theaters is that they do not make their money from selling movie tickets, because the vast majority of that money, there's this myth out there that theaters keep 50%. Theaters do not keep 50%. Okay, let me just be very clear about that. They don't. The vast majority of the money that a movie ticket generates goes back to the distributors and the studios. Rightfully so, to a degree. They do gouge the theater sometimes quite badly, but so the theaters get a little bit of money from the movie tickets, maybe like 30% of that ticket. Movie theaters do not make their money on movie ticket sales. They make their money on concession sales. One studio head or one theater chain head at CinemaCon one year famously said, "We are not in the movie business. We're in the candy business." And he's not wrong, because that's where the bulk of their money comes from. So when it comes to their candy business, you got to forgive them if they're going to take that very seriously. And now Adam Aron has come up with this idea. Hey, you know what? Instead of selling a box of M&Ms, in which M&Ms is going to get 60% of what we sell that box of M&Ms for, why don't we make our own AMC candy? And we'll keep all that candy money. And by the way, if you want to know why does one licorice cost $3? That's why, because AMC's got to give a bunch of the money back to the candy manufacturer, and then they got to create that high price is what profit they get to keep for themselves so they can keep the lights on. So Adam Aron comes up with this idea of, what if we just make our own AMC candy? All right. Let's look at that for a second. I'm of two minds on it. Because on the one hand, it's actually a pretty forward-thinking idea if you're a movie theater executive. If your real money comes from the candy sales and comes from concessions, why not come up with a way where you keep a bigger chunk of that revenue at the concessions? Instead of selling a bag of Reese's Pieces M&Ms, sell a bag of AMC's Choco Peanut Butter Delights. And you got to pay whatever it costs to make those candies, but instead of keeping like 30%, you're keeping like 90%. And your revenues go up strategically. Listen, honestly, I'm not a big Adam Aron fan, but that's not a bad idea, actually. However, that being said, there's another way to look at this that worries me a little bit. And that worry is this. When you go and look at and stand in a concession stand line, you know there's only so much space for so much candy, right? It ain't all going to be, when they start introducing AMC candies, that means they're going to start pushing some things out. Look, this comes to us from a report over at Deadline. This is Adam Aron saying this. He goes, "We recently noticed as a result of the pandemic and the supply chain shortages, all of which is true, that candy manufacturers had increased their price to us by a huge amount. Again, which is also true. Some candy makers are increasing their cost for wholesale candy as much as 33% in a one-time bump. That kind of got us thinking very hard about our candy and
there we go.
And we realized that we could manufacture a private label brand of candy to very high quality standards, price it less expensively than our current candy is priced, and have higher profit margins. So again, this sounds like a win-win, right? Because not only is it a win for AMC, it could be a win for us as the consumers. They're saying, hey, we can create our own candy line, make it way less expensive, therefore we can sell it cheaper to our patrons. Like instead of them having to pay $6 for a little box of candy, maybe they'll have to pay $4.25 for a little. We can make the prices lower for our customers and we still make more money. Again, on the one hand, that sounds great. And it's very creative thinking. However, I do have a worry. And maybe I'm worrying about nothing, but here's my worry. Again, number one, look at the size of the concession stand. There's only a limited amount of space there for candies to be out there. You know, when you go into a concession stand, you have limited options already, right? When they start introducing their own AMC candy, it's going to bump some of the other candies off. And there's only going to be so much more. I mean, they do say we're still going to sell other people's candy, but you know they're not going to sell as much. You know the shelf space and the prime, high profile, highly visible candy rack is not going to have M&Ms on it, and it's not going to have, Choco frosted sugar bombs. Bonus points to anybody who knows that reference. It's not going to have Choco frosted sugar bombs.
I guess
it's going to have AMC.
No, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it's. I can't remember.
I'm going to keep my eye on the live chat, see if anybody knows it. It's going to have AMC candy.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the prime stuff is going to be. And here's the part where I get, by the way, Thomas Mitchell in the live chat gets it. Calvin and Hobbes. Points to you, Thomas Mitchell. 4 points to Hufflepuff. Okay, so.
You're Hufflepuff.
Here's the other big problem. So besides the fact that they're going to start kicking out some of the candies that I do like to have there, here's the thing. AMC Theaters has the worst popcorn in the movie theater industry. Now, I still eat it every time I go. But every time I end up going to another movie theater and I get a bag of popcorn, I always go, oh my God, this is so much better than AMC's. AMC makes the lowest quality popcorn and puts the lowest quality butter-like substance, because it ain't butter. That stuff you put on your popcorn ain't butter, but I still put it on. But they
put straw.
Yeah, with a straw. I layer that son of a bitch. So AMC already makes the lowest quality popcorn with the lowest quality buttery substance that is still passable and people will still eat, because I'm the sucker. I'm the one who still gets it every single time I go. There is no reason for me to believe they won't take the same approach to their other candy. There's no reason for me to believe they won't. They will do the app. What's the Food and Drug Administration bare minimum requirements for quality? Put that. Okay, do that and then add 0.01% above it. And my worry is that instead of having some delicious Reese's Pieces, they're going to have the AMC Choco Peanut Butter Delights, and it's going to be like,
it's gonna have
crap.
It's gonna have that white haze on the chocolate.
Yes.
They're actually gonna have containers like Sweet Factory where you just put a bunch of candy in the bag and they weigh it.
Yeah. Like, no, sorry.
Okay with that.
I did not find rat shit in my bag of candy. I actually found a rat taking a shit in my bag of candy.
Oh, wow.
And that's my worry. Again, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm telling you as a consumer, that is my fear. That is my, not finding a rat taking a shit in a bag of candy. That's not going to happen. But I mean, it's my fear that they're going to just
on it.
crank out the cheapest, lowest possible quality candy that can still sell, bump the candy I do like off the shelves, put theirs on there, and that's what you got.
Because what's going to happen is, let's say they do find that they're making money. They're going to push more to make more money.
Absolutely.
By pushing to a lower. That's what happened to this Chinese food place that was near my house. the owner left, right? And he gave all the ingredients to like the next people, and they started using cheaper quality sauces.
Okay,
and it
remember-
just completely sucked. I don't go there anymore.
Remember the right beside AMC Burbank 16?
Right.
There was that Asian seafood all-you-can-eat buffet right beside the AMC
Oh,
Burbank
right,
16, right?
right.
When they opened with their grand opening, we all used to go there for lunch a
Yeah,
bunch
it
because
was so
the
good.
food was so good. But slowly over time, the quality of the food got worse and worse and worse as they were cutting costs. And we all just stopped eating there. Within 2 years, the place shut down. I agree with Ray. I think what my fear here is that AMC is going to make it as cheap as they possibly can. It's not going to be anywhere near as good as the other stuff, but we're not going to have any other options. So just like their popcorn, I'm stuck buying their popcorn. And what's going to happen is then they'll just keep making it worse and worse and worse. Why? Because, hey, you're coming to the movie theaters, you're going to be snacky. What else are you going to get? And again, I'm not saying that's what they will do.
Right.
I'm saying that's my fear. Because listen, I will be the first person to say, if they create their own brand of candy and we eat it and we're like, damn, this is good, and it's cheaper than what the other stuff was, it's a stroke of genius because they're going to make the customers happier and they're going to make more money. When you can do both at the same time, that's gold.
Here's another plus. They don't have to go by they can make up candy.
Yep.
Like from what people are suggesting. And it could be AMC's own candy. Like, I brought in those chips for you yesterday.
The
Those
honey
Rappers
barbecue
chips,
cheesy things.
where it's like all the rappers,
Master P chips.
It's all the rappers' ideas or like what they want in a chip. AMC could start doing the same, and you could get a candy that you can only get at AMC, and it could like bring sales up. I don't know.
Well, I mean, again,
There's positives and
after
negatives.
eating their popcorn, I don't have a lot of faith in their ability to make good tasting candy, but maybe they will. Maybe they will. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this move by AMC? I have to admit, it is creative, out-of-the-box thinking to create their own candy line. My only worry is if it follows the pattern of their absolute lowest possible quality while still sellable and digestible by human biology popcorn, then it could be pretty bad. But guys, whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into our next user submitted question. And this one is about a release date for Beetlejuice 2. Jonathan, what do we got?
All right, Danny Shear writes, good morning, John and team. It feels like the Beetlejuice sequel has been a bigger will it ever actually happen movie than even The Flash. They've talked about it for so long and nothing ever happened. So I was wondering, if you saw that yesterday, everything seems to be locked up and confirmed now. Beetlejuice 2 is going to hit theaters on September 6th. Next year, and Jenna Ortega is confirmed to be Winona Ryder's daughter in it. What do you think of this? Thanks.
All right, Danny, thanks a lot for sending that in. You're right. I mean, I still remember being back at AMC Movie Talk and doing stories about, they've confirmed they're moving forward with a Beetlejuice 2. Crickets. 5 years later, the story comes up again. And then more crickets. And then here we are 5 years later again. And then they started talking again last year about, hey, no, really, we swear, pinky swear, totally dead serious. We're really trying to put together a Beetlejuice 2 now. And I admit I was skeptical. I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, guess what? Now we're starting to see it. It is happening. Tim Burton confirmed it a while ago. Jenna Ortega confirmed that she was on board for it. Winona Ryder confirmed that she was back on board for it. Now we got an official release date, and we know who Jenna Ortega's character is going to be, and it's the one we all guessed anyway. This comes just from the folks over at Screen Rant who wrote this. They said, shortly after being confirmed for the long gestating Tim Burton sequel, Jenna Ortega's Beetlejuice 2 character details have revealed her relation to an original character. Development on the horror comedy has languished for over 30 years, finally gaining steam last year with Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder said that they will be reprising their beloved roles. Earlier this year saw rumors swirling of Ortega reuniting with her Wednesday director, that's Tim Burton, which were later confirmed at Warner Brothers CinemaCon 2023 panel though her character details are being held under wraps. And now we also have a release date, and that release date is September 6th, 2024. All right. First, let me say the unpopular thing. I like Beetlejuice as much as most people. I mean, I like Beetlejuice. It's not a movie to me that is like one of the all-time classics. Like a lot of my friends like hold it up to be. Like to a lot of people, Beetlejuice is a beloved movie. Absolutely beloved. And to me, it's a movie that's, yeah, I remember that one. Hey, remember that scene when he's sitting in the office and he's sitting with guys, the head shrink and all that kind of stuff. It was funny. I don't know. It is. So I could do or not do with a Beetlejuice 2. I'm just being honest. I could take or not take a Beetlejuice 2. The big thing for me personally that's driving some interest is the fact that we're in a Michael Keaton seance right now. And by the way, Michael Keaton is awesome in The Flash. I cannot wait for you guys to see Michael Keaton in The Flash. He's so good in it. That being said, that's interesting. Now, Jenna Ortega, when they announced that she was joining the cast, I think every single one of you watching this video guessed that she was going to be Winona Ryder's daughter. I think everybody guessed that. And sure enough, they did confirm that that is who her character is going to be. She is going to be related. She's going to be the daughter of Winona Ryder's character. But they haven't given us any more details on it up till now, and that's fine. Is like they're going to be some kind of curse that gets passed down to her and only Beetlejuice can come and save the day. I mean, I don't know how they're going to approach it or whatever. But any of you guys, like you guys behind the camera, any of you guys like have some kind of affinity for the original Beetlejuice? Are you excited about this, Jonathan?
I mean, I think the thing about it is the art direction was kind of new. You know, Tim Burton was still new on the scene at that time.
Yeah, he was still a young gun.
It was kind of like, it was different. I mean, I go back and it's just some of the line deliveries of Michael Keaton was great. Like, nice effing model. And just little things like that. Like, I forgot that line. It's so funny. And I think it's just kind of an iconic 80s film. You know, I think he pulls it off again. I'm looking forward to it.
Jen, I don't even think you were born when this movie came out. Were you even born? Like, have you watched this movie?
Of course I've seen it.
Okay. I should have known. You do strike me as a Beetlejuice kind of
I'm
girl.
a huge Beetlejuice fan. You are correct.
Ray, what about you? You excited to see this?
Well, all I remember is they kept replaying it on my local station like all the time. The musical number got me. I'm not a musical guy, but
that's classic.
My
that is
favorite
classic
part, and also the beginning because the guy had like the miniature city thing. Like the little miniature.
The music, the score from Danny Elfman is.
It's also pretty
and I
iconic,
like that part of it. But other than that, when they started messing with their faces and stuff, that terrified me. As a kid. I couldn't get that lady's face out of my head for the longest time. Maybe even till today. Maybe I still see it at night. I don't know.
That was Alec Baldwin, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh. And then like they would pull their faces. And the other girl, it was Gina Davis, right?
Yeah, it was Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, and I like by today's standards. Like you look at that when they did the face stretch thing, I get it. Like if you were born after Beetlejuice came out and all that kind of stuff, if you look back at it now, maybe it looks a little laughable. But at the time, that was top-notch prosthetic work. Like that was, and it was terrifying when you were a kid. All right, guys, question is for you. Are you excited about a Beetlejuice 2? It's now official. We got the release date. We know who Jenna Ortega is now, even though we kind of knew it before. Are you really pumped up for this thing? It's coming in like a year and a half. It's going to be in theaters. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's finish things off here with this, shall we? Talk about the next 30 days could actually be the biggest 30-day window for movies we've had in over 4 years. Jonathan, what do we got?
Okay, Alan writes, I just sat down and looked at the Regal ticket site for upcoming movies, and holy crap, there are a few really big ones coming out in the next 30 days. Guardians is in theaters already, so I won't count that one, but Fast X is coming, Little Mermaid, The Machine, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Indiana Jones 5, and Transformers Rise of the Beast, all in the next month. Which are you most excited for?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when I got that email, I sat down and like, now when we say month, we're not talking about calendar month. We're talking about the next 30 days, right? This 30-day window that we are now in is easily the biggest 30-day window for movies that we've had in years. In at least 4 years, going back to 2019, pre-pandemic era, we have not had a 30-day window where this sheer level and magnitude of blockbuster potential, because we don't know if a couple of these films are going to flop or not, but we're going to call box office blockbuster potential films coming out in the same 30-day window. And it is nuts. And so I thought it would be fun if we took a second here and I ranked for you. Now, I'm not going to put The Machine on there. I know you mentioned The Machine thing. I'm not going to put The Machine. All due respect, but I don't think The Machine is one of those movies. But we've got no less than 5 who, if this was a pre-pandemic era right now, all 5 of these films would be billion-dollar potential films. Not automatic billion-dollar films, but billion-dollar potential films. And even now, in the post-pandemic era, a couple of these could still hit the big billion-dollar mark. All right. So for me, what is my number 5 most anticipated out of these incredibly huge films coming out in the next little bit? I'm going to say number 5, The Little Mermaid. Again, I'm not a Little Mermaid guy. Mermaid. I'm not a Little Mermaid guy, but the trailers really got me. The sequences they showed us at CinemaCon, I thought looked really, really good. So I am actually quite interested in watching this movie. We're hearing really good things coming out about it already, especially Halle Bailey's performance. Everybody's raving about her performance. Her, Melissa McCarthy. So yeah, I'm excited about it, but it is number 5 for me on the list. All right, next one will be Transformers Rise of the Beasts, is my 4th most anticipated, coming out in the next 30 days. Again, I don't know why they didn't just go do Bumblebee 2, considering the first one. Why did they didn't go back and get the Kubo and the Two Strings director back to direct it again? I don't know why, but the trailer sold me. The trailer sold me on this. They do every Transformers movie, and I always end up disappointed, but again, they sold me on it. So Transformers Rise of the Beasts is my 4th most anticipated movie coming up. All right. My 3rd is Fast X. I hated Fast 9. Hated it. But my God, Fast X looks like a hell of a lot of fun. It looks like, and I might be wrong because I haven't seen the movie. I don't have my phone here. I just got my screening invitation to go watch Fast X. I won't be going, but I did get my advanced screening invitation to go see Fast X. And it looks like from the trailers that they learned a lot of lessons from Fast 9. And it feels like they've taken it back to like Fast 7, Fast 6. And those movies I love. So that's why Fast X is my 3rd most anticipated movie of this next 30 days. All right. Then, if that wasn't big enough for this 30-day window we're in, next one up in my number 2 spot is Indiana Jones 5. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. They showed us like a 15, 20-minute clip at CinemaCon, and it just oozed Indiana Jones. It was the perfect Indiana Jones feel. I thought the trailers have been great. I think we've got one of the greatest directors in the world, James Mangold, who, of course, directed Logan as well, and he's just a marvelous director. With him doing it, I've got very, very, very high hopes and also dangerously very, very high expectations. I think this movie looks fantastic. I think it's going to be great. And if all that, guys, look at this list. In the next 30 days, Little Mermaid, Transformers, Fast 10, Indy 5, and then obviously you guys know it was my number 1, Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse also coming out in this same 30-day window. You guys who watch the show know, to me, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best comic book movie of 2018, and that is the same year that Black Panther and Infinity War came out. And I think Miles Morales' movie, Spider-Verse, was the best movie that year. The best comic book movie that year. I thought it was my number 3 favorite movie overall. I only had it behind, the only 2 movies I personally had it behind for best movie of the year, not just comic book movie, I had it behind A Quiet Place and I had it behind Black Klansman. Other than that, I honestly thought Spider-Verse should have been nominated for Best Picture. It won Best Animated Film that year. I contend it should have been nominated for Best Picture overall as well. But then they showed us 15 minutes of it last year at CinemaCon. They showed us like another 15 minutes of it at this year's CinemaCon. This thing looks like it's going to be bigger, more heartfelt, and better than the first one. And so that's why to me. So again, let's look at this list here. In the next 30 days, this 1 month window we have, Little Mermaid, Transformers Rise of the Beast, Fast X, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Guys, this is a good time for us as movie fans. Now, I'm sure a couple of these will be great. I'm sure a couple might disappoint, whatever, but it has been years since we had a road that's right in front of us next 30 days where we've had this level of kind of bombastic filmmaking coming to us. And I, for one, cannot wait. Question is for you guys. What is your most anticipated out of this list of films we're getting in the next 30 days? Is it Transformers one? Is it the animated Spider-Verse? Is it Fast 10? Little Mermaid? Whatever you guys think, in whatever order you would have it in, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that all down, we're now going to move over and start taking your questions that you guys have sent in to our tip line. Again, you can send in a question anytime, 24/7. You don't have to do it when the show's live. Just go anytime at 3 in the morning or any hour of the day to streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And if we deem your questions to be appropriate to be read on our show, we'll read it here on our show. Now, before we get to those, though, we're going to thank a couple more sponsors of today's show. First of all, this time, really honestly, Rocket Money and our friends at MasterClass. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Rocket Money. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions. Think about that. If you think you're only subscribed to a handful of services, you might want to double check. With Rocket Money, you can quickly identify and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want and don't even use. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as the click of a button. My wife Ann and I moved out of Burbank 2 years ago, and one of the first things I discovered when I loaded up Rocket Money was that I was still paying for a gym membership I haven't even been to in Burbank in 2 years. So stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, MasterClass. With MasterClass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn filmmaking from James Cameron himself, you know, the guy who made 3 of the 4 biggest films of all time. Improve your writing by taking screenwriting from one of the greatest who's ever done it, Aaron Sorkin. Or maybe learn how to make great comedic content by taking comedy by the one and the only Judd Apatow. And many of you guys know I'm a big poker guy, and I recently got a chance to sit down and watch Daniel Negreanu, one of the greatest poker players in the world, teach poker. It was absolutely fantastic. But guys, whatever you're interested in, there is a class for you with over 180 exclusive classes taught by the instructors you know and love. And you can explore lessons in any order you'd like, across your phone, tablet, Apple TV, computer, and on the go with audio mode. Individual lessons range from about 10 to 15 minutes in length that fit easily into your everyday life. Guys, I highly recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money and Masterclass for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, we're going to spend the remainder of our time here taking your questions that you guys have sent in. So, Jonathan, what do we got?
Okay, first up, we've got Eduardo O'Neill who writes, can you please elaborate on the consequences for writers if theoretically they do write under the strike?
I mean, again, the better person to be here for that would be Chris Carr as a member of one of the unions. But basically, they'll be expelled out of the union and they'll probably never get back in. And then if you're not in the union, you've drastically reduced the number of jobs you could have in the future. So you've basically be screwing yourself if you did. That's why. All right, what's next?
All right. Bored at Work writes, been getting my girlfriend into more movies. We watched all the Evil Dead movies before Rise,
nice.
All the Guardians movies, plus IW and Endgame. Oh, okay. Before 3. And we'll watch Man of Steel and Batman 89 before Flash. The indie movies and Spider-Verse before the new one. Wow.
You know what? This is one of the good things about franchises. Is that when new movies come out, they open new opportunities for people who haven't seen the originals to get introduced into that world. Right? So I know a lot of people, when a new movie is coming out, they actually take an evening and watch some of the previous ones. I know a lot of people that, I'm not talking about the theater event, but I mean, I know a lot of people who before Guardians of the Galaxy came out were like, oh yeah, this week we rewatched Guardians 1 and Guardians 2. I mean, it's just kind of a really cool thing to do. And that is awesome that you and your girlfriend are doing that together, man. All right, what's next?
All right, Ray's alarm clock is chiming in here. Hey, crew, is there any truth to the rumor that Fast and Furious X1
11?
will feature the cloning of Dominic Toretto, and it will be called FFX1 Dom and Dahmer? Probably.
You know,
I think so.
I thought that was a stupid comment
Dom and Dahmer.
until I got to Dom and Dahmer. And then I went, nope, that's gold.
FFX1
Dom and Dahmer. I dig that. All right, what's next?
Chuck the Mystery writes, hey, John, on the John Campea show Tuesday, you said that you didn't feel it was necessary to watch the Keaton Batman films in order to see Flash. So that brings up a question. In your opinion, does the Batman in Flash feel like the 89 version or a new iteration of him?
Okay, look, I'll put it this way. It feels like the 89 iteration, but also different because it's 30 years later. But there's also a detail I want to be able to tell you to really accurately give an answer to this, but I can't because it would be a little spoilery. I'll just say this. It feels like this is the 89 Batman who would have gone through some changes that 30 years of time would have brought on. So yeah, it does feel like it. They do a good job with that.
I will say, I'm curious because obviously I haven't seen it either. Because we were just talking about the art direction of Beetlejuice, and obviously Batman and Batman Returns had a very specific art direction to the sets and everything, and yet this is supposed to be his world. So I'm not asking for any answers, but I am curious if there's we notice any similarities to that world as far as the art direction.
100%.
Awesome.
I mean, not the outside world, but when you're in Wayne Manor and in the Batcave, and that's not giving anything away because a lot of those shots are actually in the trailer. But yeah, the art direction style is very, very, and of course the music hits and it's really good. I cannot wait for you guys to watch Flash. Honestly, it's so good. All right, what's next?
All right, Nicolas Cage writes, I'm looking to pick up a striking art for self-defense and health. Torn between Muay Thai or kickboxing. Muay Thai is more effective, but at 33, I'm worried the elbows and knees are going to mess my body up sparring. And then kickboxing is more defensive and evasive. Your recommendation?
I would recommend kickboxing, honestly. I think, number one, if you're also doing it mostly for health and stuff like that, it's just a lot of people will just take straight up kickboxing classes just for cardio health and things like that. I just think it's also, depending on your age, it's a much more introductory friendly art to get involved in. And listen, Muay Thai is always something that you can add to your repertoire a little bit later if you want to. I think kickboxing is a good place to start. All right, what's next?
I think I'd lean towards Krav Maga, personally.
I would lean towards the Scottish martial art, fuck you, which mainly involves headbutting people when they're on the ground.
And a bottle.
By the way, if anybody got that reference, bonus points to you if you got that reference.
Oh my God, these invisible
so I married an axe murderer?
Very good. Yes, I'm very proud of you. That's one of the best lines from Sorry Married an Axe Murderer. Yeah, in Scotland we have our own martial arts called fuck you. Mainly involves kicking people, headbutting and kicking people when they're already on the ground. I love that. All right, what's next?
All right, Paul Star Guy writes, did any of you watch Mayfair Witches based on Anne Rice books and on AMC? A young woman doctor, Alexandria Daddario, discovers she has certain powers and seems to be tied to a man entity. It's a different take on witches and very well done.
I'll tell you a couple things here. One, I don't have AMC. Two, I didn't even know this existed. And three, I wish I did because I love Alexandra Daddario. So like all those things, but I've not even heard, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even heard of this show.
No, me either. You know where the licensing would work is things like AMC Plus, because I don't think they're doing great. And getting their
I didn't even know there was an AMC Plus.
Exactly. So AMC Plus, and I even would honestly say Paramount Plus could probably have some success with sending their stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, because listen, I have not heard of this show, and you've just made me interested in it. So I'll have to keep my eyes open for it. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Paul Star Guy back. I retired after 20 years in the federal government on April 27th.
Congratulations.
I'm really enjoying watching the show live every day now.
That's one of the best reasons to retire, is that you can just watch our show every day without the burden of having to be at some stupid office. Well done. And congratulations on your retirement, man. It's something I'm starting to plan for myself. All right, what's next?
Then I think I better start too. Willoughby Sting writes, "You seem shocked at the cost of Odeon Lux. Here was the breakdown. 2 Dolby tickets were £44, and pounds are more than dollars. Food, large popcorn, nachos, soft drinks, £27. We could have cut costs with a standard showing and on concessions, but that cost £58 still. We couldn't justify it."
But didn't you say it was like 90? If I remember right, didn't you say it was like 90? I can see if you go to the top premium AMC screening on a Friday night in an AMC Dolby Prime, you're spending $20 a ticket. I can see that.
And then the food, if it was an AMC dine-in, right, it would go even higher.
Yeah, if you wanted to spend that much. But
Yeah.
I mean, Ann and I will normally go and have dinner first. Like we'll go have dinner somewhere and then we'll go to the theater. And I'll still get a bag of crappy AMC disgusting popcorn because I can't help myself. I got to eat it.
How does Regal? I've never really been to a Regal.
You know what? I rarely go to Regal simply because they're not really. Ever since I've lived in LA, an AMC theater has always been the closest one to me. Ann and I went to Regal cinemas. Like just for instance, we went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy at the advanced screening at the Regal at the Spectrum in Irvine, California. The popcorn was really quite good. Now I don't know. Maybe the popcorn isn't all that good, right? Maybe if you eat a 4-day-old, Filet-O-Fish, that'll taste like Gordon Ramsay gourmet if you're just used to eating piles of dog shit. Maybe. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just so used to AMC's popcorn. Maybe I'm just so used to AMC's popcorn that once I had something that wasn't total bottom of the barrel crap, I was like, oh my God, this is delicious. But yeah, to me, the Regal popcorn tasted delicious.
I'll tell you one thing. You might already be aware of this. I only just found out, but apparently ArcLight is on the comeback.
Whoa.
And they're coming back to like Hollywood, Pasadena, whatever. So I loved ArcLight.
ArcLight had the best popcorn.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had real butter. And by the way, their caramel corn was top freaking notch too. I would love for them to make a comeback. All right, what's next?
Okay, Quantum of Zen writes, "Hi crew, double bill suggestion, RoboCop, the original, and Demolition Man could have taken place in the same crazy world. Could have."
You know what? Yeah, because there's a dystopian element to the future of both of those. I never did understand the 3 shells, but whatever, that's just me. Yeah, that sounds good. But that is Demolition Man, right? That was not the one with the 3 shells?
I think so. Was Demolition Man with Stallone, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I was
Wesley
thinking
Snipes.
Yeah, and what's her name?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, right? Yeah, the mystery of the 3 shells. I still got to figure that out. I've never understood the 3 shells. All right, what's next?
All right. Quantum of Zen writes, "The mystery of how Fast X will end just hit me. They're actually in the Matrix. It explains everything."
Again, listen.
He's kind of not wrong.
This goes back to the thing that Michelle Rodriguez, of course, one of the longtime stars of Fast and Furious, and is fantastic in the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. That's what it's called, right? Honor Among Thieves? I always just call it Dungeons and Dragons. But Dungeons and Dragons, she was fantastic in it. And guys, you got to watch. I think it's coming to streaming here in the coming days. But you got to watch Dungeons and Dragons. It's fantastic. Michelle Rodriguez is great at it. It is Honor Among Thieves?
No, yeah, but I'm so bummed I missed it.
Oh, it's so good. It's so entertaining. And you don't have to be a Dungeons and Dragons fan to appreciate it either. But a few weeks ago, she made the comment of, she just watched the movie for the first time and she says the ending is going to blow everybody away. She goes, I watched the ending. My jaw was on the floor. I couldn't believe that we just did this. We're like, well, what on earth? In a franchise where you literally put Ludacris in space in a car sealed with duct tape, what they really did in Fast 9, what on earth could you possibly do that would blow everybody away and make you wonder, how on earth did we do this? Dom being cloned, dinosaurs.
That's what I'm thinking.
Aliens.
I'm thinking dinosaurs, baby.
I'm thinking Vin Diesel fights the moon. He takes on the moon and he wins because he's Vin Diesel.
Minions.
With the power. Minions show up.
Yeah, because they're universal.
Fast and the Minions.
Yeah, I mean,
the Minions show up. There you go. So, I don't know. It could be anything. All right, guys. With that down, that'll do it for today's episode of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to join us again for tomorrow's episode of the John Campea Show. Of course, Chris Carr will be back joining me again. And hopefully, most importantly, you guys will be here as well. So for everybody in the room, Ray back there getting ready to do some barbecuing to watch the Laker game tonight. Back there, we got Jen, Jonathan Voico running the show. My name's John Campea. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.